So our church has always been about making disciples. And we've been doing that for over 100 years. Started with a couple families getting together and holding prayer meetings in their homes. And then we moved to a tent downtown. First building was purchased in 1920. And eventually they would settle in to a larger facility at 15th and G Street in downtown Modesto.
The last Sunday of September in 1982 was our first Sunday. And of course we come to 15th and G, which had been the home of Bethel Church for 61 years. I was 42 and my wife was, and it was an interesting because we didn't know anybody. All of our family was in Oregon, so it was traumatic, our move here. But there was wonderful people, and I think one of the highlights is in our present chapel, the lights in the ceiling were the original lights in the Bethel Church in 1940. So I had them rewired and crated them for 20 years, and then when we built the chapel, we put them in. So we have some of the history of 15th and G.
So our first Sunday was in September of 2011, and the story a few months before starts with just a process where we got to meet Pastors Cliff and Carol, who were looking to transition after
30 years.
30 years
Yeah,
of
almost
great
30 years.
ministry here. And so we were meeting with them, and then I think it was the 24th of July. I don't know why I remember that date, but we met here at the Bethel campus with them and the whole leadership team, the board, a transition team, just some people. And before we knew it, we had said, we're ready to come.
Yeah.
And they said, we're ready to have you. We didn't even know what we were walking into that meeting, probably on some level, but we were here. And so they prayed for us, laid hands on us, and we were the new pastor-elects for
Right.
Bethel Church. And so we're driving home that night to Sacramento. And I remember we were just talking as we headed up Oakdale Road towards Riverbank, and we were turning left there on Clarabelle, and I remember the conversation just kind of stopping suddenly, and I said, you know what? There could one day be a campus here. We could have a Bethel Church campus here in Northeast Modesto.
Right. And
Out amongst these
there was
fields.
nothing there at the time. It was like a bunch of orchards and nothing. So it was kind of like, oh, well, that's random, but okay.
So we kept driving,
Yeah.
we kept talking. We go down the road, we get on 99 to head north, and we're talking about something else. And we were passing through Ripon, and I see the water tower of Ripon, and I remember saying to Marcia, there should be a Bethel Church campus here in Ripon. We could totally plant a campus there. And the funny thing is that was like, we hadn't even started. It wasn't even our first day yet.
Right.
And we were talking about something we'd never done before, multi-site church. One church in many locations. We'd never been a part of it, but we'd heard about it. And God was already birthing in us this vision and this dream for what could be. And so a few months later, we started in September here at what was then known as Bethel Church.
Right.
You know, next there was a significant decision to take a piece of property that had been given to the church in the early 2000s called St. John's Chapel of the Valley. That was the name that it had started with.
Right. So all of a sudden, this, Pastors Rick and Sherry at the time, Pastors John and Neva, and us, we came together and we started asking the question, how do we do church together like a family, as opposed to just you do your thing, we do our thing. And so we were learning how to do family church together, where we're at different locations, different preaching pastors, but one family, one vision, one heart, reaching one community, because we're just right down the road. So that was a really neat season.
We started in March of 2011 when we came to the church when Pastors John and Neva Blakely called us to ask us to come and be with them. And we were going to be there for a short time, we thought. But God had something else in mind.
Yeah, we were going to be there for about a month, and at Easter, it would be our final service that year, and we would then the church would be closed down, and the property would be sold. So, but the Lord had other ideas, because every Sunday the door kept opening and more people kept coming. And by Easter Sunday, what did we have?
We had 55 people that showed up on Easter Sunday that year, and we started the first Sunday we were there were 7 people in the congregation. So it was so exciting. I just remember standing up on the platform with tears coming down my face going, God, this is just amazing what you're doing here and bringing these people in.
So then Pastor Cliff called us into the office, Pastors John and Neva, and called us all in. And he said, I'm not going to be the one who shuts the door on what God is obviously wanting to do. He's not done with this campus, with this church. And so if you guys will commit till Christmas, we will keep going, and we'll see what God wants to do. Just go and have church. And so we all said we could do that. We could commit to Christmas, and here we still are.
So then in late 2012, I remember because I was headed out to a missions trip, and I stopped by Pastor Tracy's office, who was helping us as our interim kids pastor at the
Right.
time. And I said, hey, we've been thinking about planting a campus in Northeast Modesto. I hear you guys are interested in being church planners and planning a church. Let's talk in a couple weeks when I get back. And I kind of left them in this lurch because they had been praying about this, Shelly and Tracy, for so long, and sensing God was leading them. And it was an easy decision to say, hey, let's send people, let's send resources. Let's do what God's called us to do, but in a different location. And so on March the 3rd, 2013 was the first Sunday of ministry there at the Sylvan location. At the time it was called, it was Sylvan Road and Oakdale Road, that intersection behind Perco's.
Yeah.
And that would one day become the Riverbank campus.
So Riverbank, the journey there, it started in November of 2012, and we planted the church in March of 2013. So in 3 months, we decided to plant the church, got a building and behind Perco's on Oakdale and Sylvan, remodeled it, and launched services. It was crazy. My favorite part about the Riverbank campus, I think, is the people, the genuine authenticity of our people. We say it a lot, we're real people with real issues finding real hope, and we see that in our people, and it's fun because we just get to do life along with doing ministry with them.
Yeah. Riverbank, the people at Riverbank are just really amazing. And they're so loving, they're funny, they serve, they give, and they laugh, and they laugh, and they laugh. And it's an awesome place to be.
So the Riverbank campus began to grow and thrive. It was pretty cool to see how it started. And fast forward a few years later.
So we had these great friends in ministry named Dave and Kim Leatherman who wanted to plant a church. And so we started talking and decided that we could do this together and partner as a family. And so they drove the streets of Ripon, felt like this was where God wanted them to plant a church. And it had been the place that God had put on our hearts. And it just was God's will coming together.
So they moved here, lived here for about 9 months. And then in February of 2016, the Ripon campus launched. And it's just been going strong ever since.
So we moved to the area in the beginning of 2015, and we really took that season to build a launch team, to start raising finances. We walked the community. We were looking for, okay, knocking on doors. Where's the place that we are gonna host our church services? Is it gonna be in elementary schools, in the high school, in the theater, in the community center? I mean, we
went everywhere we could in Ripon, and we met as many people as we could. We got jobs in the community just to rub shoulders with as many people as we could within the community of Ripon, within the city of Ripon. And what an incredible blessing, just getting to know the people and the heartbeat and just kind of like the culture of the city of Ripon. So February 21st, 2016 was our launch day. It was our birthday, and it was such an incredible day. And since that day, we have had people coming in through our doors that would never have set foot into a church. We have marriages that are being healed, people that are being reunited with their spouses. We have a student ministries that's so incredible in our community, and kids are giving their hearts to the Lord, and they're finding their purpose in the Lord at a young age. And we are able to serve the families of the community of Ripon. Where there was no church, there is now a church, and it's thriving, and God is on the move in Ripon.
Fast forward to 2018, January, I get a call. Pastor from Turlock wants to meet with me. I didn't know what it was about, and he walked in, Dr. Rich Cook walked in to my office that day and said, hey, I've been watching One Church and you guys for some time, and I really think that you guys are a model of multi-site ministry that we would want to be a part of. Could we do life better together, do ministry better together. And so Family Life Church in Turlock began a 6-month conversation with One Church about merging, about us adopting them into our family and them becoming One Church Turlock.
And then that summer, we interviewed Pastors Brad and Mandy Winkle, who were living in Southern California, and they were a great fit with us, with our team. And so they got, they came, they moved this direction, and they became the pastors that would do a transition with the Cooks, similar to what we had done. And so that was kind of a neat season too, because a little bit of what happened with St. John's and Bethel was happening with, at the time, Family Life, soon to become One Church. And then a little bit of what took place between us and the Traubs was now happening with the Winkles and the Cooks.
So we came to Turlock in the summer of 2018 in August.
Yeah, it was a nice hot day. We're here simply from the Lord. We were super resistant to come back to Central California when we left in 2012. And then as we were just seeking what God had for us, He just really stirred us in this direction and to connect with Dr. Cook and Pastor Janie. And then as we're making that connection, we ended up making the connection with the Bethkes.
We had been looking to church plant or to find a parent, or we just wanted to start a church and change the world, but we knew we needed help. And so the One Church network and the Cooks coming together, it felt right. So here we are.
So then in 2019, we adopted the Salida campus.
So in early 2018, after pastoring here in the area for a while, my wife and I both felt the Lord calling us into a greater sense of community.
So that's when we reached out to Pastors Kyle and Marcia to see what it would be like to be doing ministry together.
And the rest is history. In September of 2019, we launched One Church Salida.
People ask us, well, is One Church done multiplying? Is it done planting or parenting campuses? And the honest answer is, I don't think so. I mean, we never set out to have a certain number of campuses, and we're going to follow God's Spirit however He leads us along the way. Who knows? There may be other communities or cities in our area that God tells us to go and plant something or start something or adopt something. I think oftentimes it's because an incredible leader walks into our lives and we say, how could we not send this person out?
Yeah.
The Lord's really given us a dream for a church that doesn't desire to just get bigger at one location. Bigger does not mean better. We feel like God has called us to make disciples, and honestly that happens best when you send called anointed leaders out along with called anointed people to do what God's called them to do. So cities in our area, awesome. In our state, in our country, in our world.
Yeah.
I believe one day One Church will have a campus internationally.
Yeah.
And we're excited for that day to come. And in the meantime, we are thrilled to be able to do life and ministry with who God's called us to be with at this time.